All right. What are, so next we're going to look at just briefly look at the relationship between human capital and wage. So we expect that the more human capital we have, the more money we'll earn. Okay, especially if it's market human capital. If it's non-market human capital, it's possible to have a lot of human capital but not earn very much money because your human capital is not very directed at the market. But in general, so what do we think? Well, we got some base wage, right? So this would be if you had like no education and experience. So the only thing you, and even then you still have some human capital because you can have your physical ability is also your human capital, right? So if you're very strong and capable of working hard, for example, then that would give you a little more. But let's just assume we got some kind of basics where we have basically no education, no experience. We're just most basic possible. How this is how much you earn, so you get some base rate, and then we rent our human capital. So the more human capital goes up, then the more we earn. Then more earn. So this is like per unit. So per unit, the R is like how much rent you get for your human capital. Okay, for example, it's a very simplistic way to look at it. When we do this more sophisticated modeling, the function we use here is quite a bit more complicated than this, but this just gives us a basic idea. So if your skills are related to productivity, and then this increases your human capital, then you're going to get higher earnings. Okay, so the higher your human capital, the more we expect you to earn. And that's this direct human capital causation idea. We also think human capital is related to unemployment. So there's strong evidence, I'll show you data in a second, that the higher level of education and training make it less likely you're going to be unemployed. And this is generally true in most countries, that the higher education people have, the less likely they are to be unemployed. There's kind of a little bit of a myth going around about this, that the rates of unemployment for example, for young graduates are really high, and it's true they might be high compared to, not currently, but in the recent past, they might be high compared to older workers, but they are not usually high compared to their counterparts who don't have college education. Okay, they tend to be high compared to older workers, because it is also true that younger workers tend to have higher unemployment rates than older. Okay, so some reason why human capital might decrease unemployment. So one thing, if you have more skills, you're more valuable to the firm. So you're less likely to be laid off. Okay, so on average, if you have more skills, the firm will want you more, want to keep you more. Okay, second thing, if you have more skills, you're going to be qualified for a wider variety of jobs. So it may make it easier for you to find another job if you do lose your job, right? So especially if your human capital is pretty general and you have quite a bit of it, then you can quit. If you lose this job, you can go to another. So let me give you an example. You're, some kind of scientist, and you're doing research, right? Then you lose that job. Well, there's other jobs in maybe the healthcare field or in some other fields that you can move into. You could also go look for a teaching job in high school, teaching high school biology or chemistry or something like this. So again, there's a lot of choices you could do, and if you can't find any of those jobs, you can still use your basic office skills to get kind of like an office support type of job, right? So there's a lot of things you could do. Um, then finally, we have the shift to the skill economy, right? So the shift to the skill economy has created many new jobs, and those new jobs are mostly in these high skill fields. So it has helped to keep the unemployment rate low because the fields with high skills are the ones that have been growing. Okay, so let's look at some data. Let's first start on the right-hand side, and we'll go to the left-hand side. So the right-hand side, we see clearly the median usual earnings. So this is people 25 and over. Okay, median usual earnings for people with, for example, whereas college education is here. Okay, almost $1,200, and high school diploma is here, $730. So there's a really big difference between the two, and there's also a really big difference with an associate's degree. So it is definitely worth your while to get a college degree. And we see this continues to rise, so master's degree is even higher, and professional degree is the highest. Now, professional degree is the highest because it includes lots of things that are very high-paying fields. For example, things like medical doctor. Okay, so it includes those kind of things that tend to be quite high-paying. But we do see clearly as the education increases, people earn more. So it is worth your while to continue. But one of the things that you might not be quite aware of, because it gets a little bit lost in the debates, is that unemployment rates are much lower for people with higher degrees. So for a high school, less than high school diploma, the unemployment rate in 2018 was 5.6%, and it went down to 4.1 for high school grads. But for a bachelor's degree, it's almost about half of that, 2.2%, and professional and doctoral degrees even higher. So unemployment rates are really, really low for people with higher degrees. So this is another advantage of investing in your human capital, is that it kind of protects you in the labor market later on. Like I said, if you can't find a job in your, if you have you can't find a job in your field, and then you can go to another related field. If you can't find a job there, you can go to a little bit lower level job. And then if you still can't find a job, you can still look for all the jobs you would have looked for if you hadn't gone to college in the first place. Okay, so this ability to move down and to try to transfer your skills over a wider area is very, very useful. Somebody who, even if they're quite specialized and have a good job, somebody with a lower level of education will have a much harder time making this move if there's some big shakeup in the economy. Okay, one other thing to add. It's not here. I'll put the data in. I'll put the data in the learning unit. But even during bad economic times like the financial crisis, it's generally true that it's generally true that people with higher education have an advantage in finding jobs. And one piece of evidence is, shortly after the financial crisis started, we found that they found that people with bachelor's degrees, young people, so like 23, 24, people straight out of college with bachelor's degrees were much more likely to be working than people without bachelor's degrees, especially than high school grads or high school dropouts. So it seemed to give them, even though they might not have been working their dream job and the job might not have been paying as much as they had hoped for, but still the actual process of finding a job seemed to be much, much easier for them.